Alright everyone, it's time to analyze the actual border bill itself that's been put forth by Congress, predominantly supported by Democrats, although there was some Republican support. Some people are dead set against this, like Rand Paul. Here's my reading of it. First and foremost to the bill itself, and then we'll get into the national emergency declaration that people are expecting and all that rigmarole. The bill itself is basically the equivalent of a mercy D. That's basically what it is. It's just shy of intolerable to the point where it'd be a complete deal breaker for anyone who voted for Trump. It's just barely beyond that. The only provisions in it that are any good are that it provides, I think it's about a quarter of the funding that Trump wanted, a little less, about 1.2 or 1.4 billion, which would finish some of the most critical fencing only in the Rio Grande district. This is the Valley, southern Texas, which is actually where, ironically enough, I was when I was in Texas. Literally, with a border, you know, that would be more than just a fence, it'd probably literally be able to see it from the backyard, so to speak. Since everything's flat as a washboard there, and most houses are, and they have these weird, really low-sloped roofs, and there's almost no second-story building that isn't like an apartment or a hotel in the whole area. It's really weird. Or in downtown Weslaco. Okay, it's a little bit different. So he's planning to sign this bill, and it gives him 1,200 additional border crossing agents. Like, not ICE agents, but people that handle, you know, the processing and stuff at border crossings. That's actually a really good provision, but that's not enough. The bill otherwise is basically, some people are saying, well, it's basically amnesty. Well, no, not really. You can construe it that way, but it'd face so many legal challenges it clearly wouldn't be. What I am worried about, though, is that what this essentially represents, the Democrats want to have Trump sign this, and then they know that this budget continues for long enough, they're hoping to knock him out in 2020, then they don't have to talk about immigration anymore. Now, I think that that is a deadly miscalculation on their part, because I don't think that the problem certainly doesn't go away. We get a report saying 5 million people might illegally cross the border in this current year. The problem's not going away. In fact, it's going to get more prevalent. What the Democrats will have done is kick the can down the road for one election. They're hoping then to sort of, you know, stamp out any opposition on this issue. Then they're like proposing like e-wall bullshit that costs almost as much that Bush originally suggested, and everyone laughed at him because it was a terrible idea, but that's their idea of border security. So the bill itself, with regards to those two provisions, is okay. It's like you get some funding, some wall is built, which is kind of a fulfillment of the campaign promise. The only other saving grace is that it represents that the Democrats caved. They did. Remember when Nancy Pelosi initially, when she took over in the wake of the last election, the midterms, she takes over. She's the presumed Speaker of the House. Thereafter, I don't think at the time that they had put her in there yet and, you know, fully voted her in as the Democrats. She said there would be no negotiation. No, we're not going to fund the wall at all. He doesn't get a penny for it. We oppose the very construction of it. Well, he's managed to secure some of the funding. Then he comes out and says, well, yeah, you know, I'm going to sign this bill, but, you know, as soon as I sign it, I'm also declaring a national emergency. I'm just going to free up other resources and build my wall. No, I don't need your wall funding at all. It's clear that you're not willing to be adults, so I'm just going to go around you and sweep you aside. This is a good thing. That's the good thing about this is the potential for him to declare a national emergency. Now, he's speculated or had others speculate on his behalf, let's face it, before about this, usually as a threat to the Democrats, but he's signaling that he's going to sign the bill anyway. My thought is that's to put pressure on them with regards to provisions in the bill, number one, and number two, he, at this point, I think he realizes the only way forward, the Democrats are not functioning as a normal political movement anymore. They're functioning as just an obstructionist movement. I've seen this before. Boehner's Congress basically functioned the same way. Nothing was accomplished. Trump's looking at the recent past and learning from it and saying, well, I guess I have to invoke my executive privilege wherever possible. The thing is, it is clearly within his right, as the President of the United States. If there is a legitimate reason to think that the border crisis is a national emergency, I think that certainly it is. You've got a huge number of people that cross it illegally. The border is not secure in any meaningful way, and we have Congress trying to obstruct the securing of that border. Building 30, 40 miles of wall in one small section doesn't even really help the situation. People will go around it. He's clearly within his right to declare a national emergency and then use discretionary money. He's talking about upwards of $8 billion to simply, complete the entire thing. It's absolutely within his right. One of the few powers of the federal government, more absolutely, is to defend the border of the United States. It's one of its primary tasks is to defend the United States as a physical thing, to prevent invasion and so forth. Now, you can mince words all you want, so, well, this isn't an invasion, it's people that want jobs and shit. Okay, well, they're not refugees. In most cases, these people are not legitimate refugees. They're migrants. They're migrating here for economic reasons because the Democrats have created an expansive welfare state, number one. Number two, the economy is surging ahead, and we've got an open border. If you're going to have a good economy and be a powerful nation, you better have a good border system. We see this problem in Europe all the time. We see enormous numbers of people that walk across and filter out all throughout Western Europe. They're not going to Eastern Europe. They don't even want to be refugees there. There were some in Finland, most of them self-deported over to Sweden. I wonder why that was the what happened. They want the UK or France or something, because these are wealthy nations that have expansive entitlement systems. That's basically what they want. It's not because, well, I'm fleeing war. Well, if fleeing war is your only goal, you could go to Greece, you could go to Turkey, you could go to Albania, you could go to any of these guys, no problem. Oh, but you know you don't have you don't have any jobs available. You have smaller economies generally. It's going to be a problem. But if you make it to Germany, they'll pay to educate you and everything else under the sun. It's a little bit different now, isn't it? And they have explicit open borders within Europe. All you need is one European Union state to want a bunch of people to come, and nobody can stop them, and then they can go wherever they want. That's their problem. The same is holding true here. We have a porous border and a good economy. We have a Trump economy now. Yeah, you can expect illegal crossings to pick up, despite the rhetoric from the Trump administration being more in favor of securing the border, because it's signaled to people. The reason why you have these 10, 20,000 person strong migrant groups storming the border, or trying to at this point, is because the country's political structure has signaled to them, we don't have a problem with you doing this, we don't really want to secure the border. There was that other, that whack-ass article the other day where they're like, oh, well, we need more immigration now because unemployment is too low. Which fucking politician was it? Was it Klobuchar or somebody? One of these moron Democrats saying that? Well, that's why wages are growing. Wages are growing because it's now an employee's economy for the first time since long before the Great Recession. See, they don't like the working class. They don't like the middle class. They don't like the janitor or the school teacher. They don't want them to make more money. They want the corporations to make all the money because the corporations are the ones that donate to them. In other words, they've inverted the idea of an actual moral capitalistic economy into a perverted socialistic one that's based on a handful of multinational corporations that often don't even really pay taxes. What they pay, you know how they pay taxes? They give money to Congress. That's why they don't want to solve the immigration issue. That's ultimately what this is about. It's about money and maintaining political power. And making sure that people are under stress so that they'll vote wedge issue. The population's too peaceful. They start thinking about civics and more broad overarching nationalistic ideologies and stuff. Oh my God, we can't have that. Civics? People might want more freedom. They might not, since they're not under stress, they'll give us less power and want less taxes. Oh my God, we can't have that situation. We gotta put stress on this fucking population. Bring in 5-6 million more people from outside and then make it impossible for us to actually assimilate anyone because we're just fucking stupid. That's what the political structure is doing right now. So I would say this. I'm not happy about the bill itself. The bill itself is, again, basically the equivalent of a mercy D within politics. If it's combined with a national emergency declaration, it'll take time. Trump will have to battle it through up to SCOTUS. He probably wins. He probably gets his border wall. In other words, campaign promise fulfilled in a roundabout way, yes. And as for this claim of amnesty, people are throwing like random tidbits from this bill out all the time. Like it was like a free-for-all last night, so I can't even keep up with it. It is an opaque and overly large bill. What have we learned about long bills? They shouldn't be passed, they should be considered. But Congress is going to try to rush it through. This is how they do it. They wait until almost the deadline for the shutdown, then they say, well, if we don't pass it, the government shuts down, and cats and dogs living together, and fucking hail falling from the sky mingled with blood and fire. Oh my God, we've got to pass it. And it scares a lot of them into compliance, because they don't want to be one of the people that voted against it if that does happen. People in Congress are cowards. They don't like to take chances and risks, usually. The few that do voted against it, like Rand Paul. But as long as the national emergency is declared, really doesn't make any difference. Trump's power to do so is absolute. Yes, I say that as a libertarian. One of the few things that an executive order in that fashion can properly be used for is to defend the border against an onslaught of individuals who have no right to be here, are not following our legal protocols, and who are basically just being used as political pawns. It ties into the anti-vax thing. They're talking about, well, unvaccinated people come here and it's causing problems with the medical infrastructure. Yeah, decent point. I'll give you that one. That's about all. Peace out.